Vivica Fox here, and you are listening to my boy, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
Hurricanes, earthquakes, wildfires. This year we've experienced more than our fair share. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and last month I decided to make sure my family does not have to worry about food should we get caught in a real emergency situation. Introducing Numana, a healthy, storable product that tastes so good that you'll want to eat it every day instead of just during those times of duress. All Numana products have a 25-year shelf life, are MSG and GMO-free, no preservatives, and are made in America. With the Numana pack in your home, you'll be able to sleep at night knowing that you've protected your family. Not only have I tasted and tested, I own it. Now you can too. Just click on the Numana banner on jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code Jimmy when you order. In addition to a discount, we'll send you an autographed Fade to Black t-shirt. Seriously, go Beckley Teppy. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I take Life Change Tea supplements every single day. It's what I do. Click on their banner at jimmychurchradio.com. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy.
Hi folks, CBD is the home run hitter for health right now. Why, you ask? Because of what it does for the body. Unfortunately, I can't tell you all about the benefit. You know, there's reasons. Do your due diligence and log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com. Ancient Life Oil uses organic ingredients and is blended in coconut oil for some of the best benefits. Legal in 50 states and non-psychoactive. Log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and my family is safe because of Numana Emergency Food Storage. Just go to the Numana banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Promo code Jimmy10.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
This is Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
All right, welcome back, Fade to Black. Yeah, that was whack. That was system-wide. That was bizarre. I blame it all on Chris O'Brien, though. It's Chris's fault. It's Chris. You know, you start talking about the government, right? Disclosure, and our website crashed. YouTube, the whole, it was just like blip, 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 and everything was fine here. So that was really strange.
That's the first time it's happened to me.
Well, yeah, I don't even react anymore, Chris. You know what was weird? This is this is as true as anything I've ever said. When I did sports radio, nothing. Technically, I never a hitch. Everything rock solid every single day. You start doing this stuff and conspiracies and things and weirdness. It's I don't even react. I just don't. It's just par for the course. So let's get. Yeah, I know, right? Totally. Let's get back to where we were, though. And somebody just said we need a recap. You said something interesting that if the president got up. POTUS, he's on the podium, he's live, that half of the world would react like there's another message. They're doing this for a reason. I look at it a little bit different. I want your feeling on this. That when the day of disclosure happened, December 16th last year with the New York Times and what happened in mass media. My family that never talks about UFOs, they know what I do for a job, right? But they don't talk to me about it. But their reaction was, so what? We're not alone. We knew it. And I thought that was a pretty interesting reaction. Wall Street didn't collapse, right? The Vatican didn't burn down. People didn't jump off of buildings. It seemed like it was pretty status quo.
Yeah, well, again, that's going back to what we were talking about earlier, is the power of the media, how we've been sort of just bashed over the head with the subject. This is one of the biggest income-producing subjects on television. Ancient Aliens is a top show in the history of the History Channel, besides maybe Pawn Stars. You're looking at a tremendous upsurge of interest in these subjects as more and more emphasis on these subjects is being placed in the media. And now that we're the gray lady is in the Wall Street Journal and the Washington Post and CNN and now Fox News are covering the whole Tic Tac videos and the Nimitz story and the whole thing with the Bigelow Aerospace being involved with Lou Elizondo's group. It's just incremental. I think disclosure has been going on for many years. We're just seeing it. It's like trying to watch the minute hand on a clock, the old analog clocks. You really can't see it move, but it is moving. So we're gradually creeping forward. And the further we go, the more the media covers this stuff, the more jaded people become, especially the kids. That's why the whole idea of conferences is going to, go the way of the cassette tape and records or cassette, let's say 8-track tapes, because they don't want to go and sit down in a hard chair and listen to, speaker after speaker. They'll tune in online. But they can't afford to, spend for a hotel, fly themselves there, go out to dinner and all this stuff. The only reason really why a lot of these people, baby boomers, do this and continue to do it, I think, is because it's a social thing. They get to see people they haven't seen in a while. They have a whole set of friends that they reconnect with. When I go to these conferences, I never go listen to the speakers. I'm always, reconnecting with people and comparing notes and networking and stuff. That's kind of what I do. So I think we're seeing a whole new generation now coming up. And you look at, you go to the UFO Congress or you go to MUFON, the average age there is in the mid-60s. Okay, I'm one of the young guys.
Right.
It's so the whole thing is going to shift. There's going to be complete changes. It's the same way with the record industry. It's the same way, with broadcast, major network television. We're seeing, because of the internet, because of the access to information, we're seeing a complete shift in how this information is delivered, and that's gonna impact, I think, greatly the paranormal subject matter that we're all interested in.
What do you think about disclosure happening with POTUS and the podium? That's one thing. But what about a blowout accidental disclosure, one that you can't deny, such as WikiLeaks or some type of data dump or a hack or anonymous getting in, like Gary McKinnon, getting into NASA's computers, where that would happen, and then they are forced into a disclosure situation where
that's possible. Yeah, I could see that, but I think number one, it's very compartmentalized, and most of the real salacious stuff, the real meat and potatoes, the real good stuff, is in the private sector, and that's pretty difficult to get at. You really have to have some sort of whistleblower that's going to leak some way for a hacker to get in, tell them, well, go check this out, go check that out, and pull it out of, Aerodyne or TRW or, any of these, I guess both of those don't exist anymore, but McDonnell Douglas or Boeing, that's probably where a lot of this stuff is.
So when you say private sector, when you say private sector, you're talking about Lockheed or Skunk Works or
aerospace. That's where I think a lot of it is, and therefore it's out of the reach of the Freedom of Information Act request. I mean, John Greenwald, obviously, you've had him on the show. He's a real good person to get a hit on how much he thinks is really in the government files, compartmentalized away from most of us. Of course, we have our Wright Patterson and some of the work that they do, counter espionage on foreign technology and things like that. Chances are there is some stuff there. There may be other stuff in R&D programs, think tanks, that sort of thing. But I think the real meat and potato stuff, the real tech stuff, the possible crashed objects, technology, things that could be back engineered, that sort of thing. I'm pretty sure that's been squirreled away into a consortium of private industry, especially in aerospace.
How do you react to that, though? The backwards engineering aspect of it, certainly if it has occurred, and it probably has, I don't have any proof of that, but we wouldn't be the only ones. The Russians must have crashed and backward engineer stuff, or Chinese or Brazil, right? It's not
the Brits.
Yeah, right.
So, a good book to read is Jacques Vallée's book that he co-wrote with the help of Tracy Torme, who, of course, was the senior story editor for Star Trek New Generation, did the Fire in the Sky movie about Travis Walton, wrote the script, produced it. Vallée wrote a book that not many people tend to forget about. It's called Fast Walker. It's based on his novel that he did in French called A Intel. And it's a loosely, it's a fictionalized story, of a reporter getting into an underground base, seeing technology, finding out that it's probably biological, and is involved with their interfaces with human consciousness. There's spatial, real wild spatial things. You go inside, and you could be inside a huge, space. It's no way it could be inside that small object. You go in there, and it's like you're in, another world, like you walk through Alice in Wonderland or something. I think there's a lot of clues in there, and Vallée wrote that book for a very specific reason. He wanted to be able to tell his public something that he couldn't tell them as being reality-based, but something that he could fictionalize to maybe get some points across. And I just reread that again for the first time in a number of years. And I do recommend that people, if you really want to have a sense of an insider's view of what's going on, I think it's a really good book to read. It reminded me so much of my screenplay that I wrote that also has some pretty interesting twists in there about the possible ability to back engineer technology and to use anti-grav and that sort of thing.
What do we do with I want to wrap up with this thought. What do we do with the abduction phenomenon, as a community where so many out there have, the number's probably in the millions, right, that has the same experiences and the same memories and the same story that is told over and over again. That is, we're taking a step in a direction of fantastical. But so many have the same experience over and over again. You've interviewed and talked to so many that have these experiences. What do we do with that?
Well, I think the abduction phenomenon is very, very complicated. There's a lot of different elements at play. Out of all the hundreds and hundreds of cases that I explored, I only had 4 abduction cases, believe it or not. In 10 years, only 4 people came to me. 2 of them were definitely delusional. 2 of them I felt were very, very good cases, which I write about in my book, Secrets of the Mysterious Valley. One was shown the location of gold treasure when he asked, can your technology show me gold? And they showed him 4 different, one was a lost robbery hoard, one was a Spanish, an abandoned Spanish mine that caved in that has a bunch of gold, and the other was a gold deposit that had yet to be discovered. And what was the other? I forget what the 4th one was, but that was a very interesting story. And then I had a woman who claimed that she had, and she showed me medical records, that right as she entered her 3rd trimester of pregnancy, her pregnancy disappeared, and her doctor said it was like she had never been pregnant. Just all the tests that they did on her, and it was totally baffling. I was actually turned on to that case by the county sheriff's department. I would think that if it was as widespread as you're saying, that in a hotspot area like I was investigating, and the amount of people that knew what I was doing, that I would have gotten more calls about people's claims of visitations and abductions. Actually, there was one other, 3rd one that was very good. It coincided with an experience I had 20 minutes after I felt something walk into my room. And I couldn't really see it, but I definitely knew there was a group of something there. And I just felt it so strongly. And then I found out a couple of weeks later that my neighbor, right, literally a stone's throw away, had the same thing happen to her, except she was able to see them all when they walked in through her wall. So
wait a minute. Hold on. Pump the brakes, Chris. Chris O'Brien, yes, just said that you had something, and I think you said multiple beings that you found in your room.
Yeah, they came right through the wall next to my head. They walked around, down the side of my bed and then curved around. And at one point, one stuck its face right. I could feel the presence of something just inches away from me, like something was looking in my face, but I couldn't see it. But I could feel it. It was one of these. I've never felt that before or since. And I just told them, hey, if you're not, here to, if you're not positive, if you're not, if you're not here with good intentions, leave. And they did. And I thought, wow, that was weird. And I woke my girlfriend up. I said, can you sense something? She goes, no, I don't sense anything. Why did you wake me up? I said, okay. And she just rolled over and was mad at me. And I found out somebody came to me about a week later and said, your neighbor there had something really weird happen to her and her little 5-year-old boy. She told me about it. She doesn't want anybody to know, but I think you should talk to her. And so it took me about a week to get her to admit something happened. And then when I talked to her, she showed me her notes that she had written down in her journal. And she said, yeah, when they came through her wall, they looked like water. They were rippling like they were partially they're partially manifest. They were like water. And then they became totally, opaque. And they ignored her, and they went and they circled around the crib where a little 5-year-old boy was, and she was really scared. And she started, blessing her son and herself, and telling them, if you're not of the light, please leave, blah blah blah. And they did, and they went right back out through the wall, the same way they came in. And I said, well, what's the date there? And she gave me the date and the time, and I'm like, whoa. That was 20 minutes after I had something happen. I wrote about it in my first book, The Mysterious Valley. That was fair. And she was married to a very famous a psychologist as well, Artie Lang. That's not just some housewife that needs some attention. She was a very, very smart, educated, freaked out individual who had never even thought these things were possible. And her little boy was predicting earthquakes. It was an interesting story. And she definitely got the sense that they were interested in him, and she was just kind of there. And normally she wouldn't be sleeping in his room, but he had nightmares or something, so she was in there. Very interesting case. I wouldn't call it an abduction, but it was it definitely left a kind of left an impression on me, because I was sure something came in. I actually thought I could see it at one point, the shoulder, arm. It was like reflections off of, almost like the Predator in the movie Predator.
Yeah.
Kind of a flashy mirror, sort of sparkly feeling to the air, but you couldn't really see anything. And I thought I saw a shoulder. But anyway, I've never had anything like that happen before since.
Same thing with me. I had one, very similar to that happen to me. Never happened again. But the difference was I didn't talk about it. All right, I didn't tell anybody, and I'm uncomfortable with it, in that I really don't want to know. I don't want to know what happened. I don't want to know who it was. I don't want to regress. I don't want to know if I was abducted. I don't want to know.
Yeah. I had, when I was 7, I had an up close and personal encounter, which they followed me around my neighborhood at 3 a.m. That's a whole other thing. That's why I'm interested in the subject. I've always been interested, because I know there's something real that's not it's not like you and me. It's definitely different.
You know what? I'm okay. I'm going to keep you for overtime. I want to hear about this encounter when you were 7. So just stand by. We're going to take a break here. But did you say Artie Lang?
Yeah.
The Artie Lang?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, his last wife, and he had a child before he died when he was much older. And she lived in Crestone.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's.
I probably shouldn't have said that. It's been 20 years, so maybe she'll be okay with it. But yeah, it was her son Charlie.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, let's take a break right here, and when we come back, Chris, I've got to know what happened when you were 7, and so save all of that. We'll do that when we come back. Our guest tonight, Christopher O'Brien. And this is the thing with Chris. Chris and I, a few years ago, we sat, Chris will remember this, we sat and talked for about 2 or 3 hours in 120 degrees. You remember that? And it was one of the best conversations I've ever had at a conference. And it's happening right now again on Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, Christopher O'Brien. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Stay with us. A little overtime when we come back.
Vivica Fox here, and you are listening to my boy, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
Hurricanes, earthquakes, wildfires. This year we've experienced more than our fair share. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and last month I decided to make sure my family does not have to worry about food should we get caught in a real emergency situation. Introducing Numana, a healthy, storable product that tastes so good that you'll want to eat it every day instead of just during those times of duress. All Numana products have a 25-year shelf life, are MSG and GMO-free, no preservatives, and are made in America. With the Numana pack in your home, you'll be able to sleep at night knowing that you've protected your family. Not only have I tasted and tested, I own it. Now you can too. Just click on the Numanna banner on jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code Jimmy when you order. In addition to a discount, we'll send you an autographed Fade to Black t-shirt. Seriously, go Beckley Teppy. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I take Life Change Tea supplements every single day. It's what I do. Click on their banner at jimmychurchradio.com. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roasted to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy.
Hi, folks. CBD is the home run hitter for health right now. Why, you ask? Because of what it does for the body. Unfortunately, I can't tell you all about the benefit. There's reasons. Do your due diligence and log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com. Ancient Life Oil uses organic ingredients and is blended in coconut oil for some of the best benefits. Legal in 50 states and non-psychoactive. Log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and my family is safe because of Numanna Emergency Food Storage. Just go to the Numanna banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Promo code Jimmy10.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
This is Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, doing a little overtime with Chris O'Brien tonight. And before we get back to Chris, I want to... well, first off, tomorrow night, Johnny Enoch is going to be here. And then Wednesday night, Patrick Wood is our guest. Thursday night is going to be Open Lines Fader night with Teresa Yannaris here as well. But I do want to, a little PSA announcement. L.A. Marzulli lost his home and studio and facilities to the fires here in Southern California over the weekend. And we posted up, and it's over on our Facebook page too as well, the GoFundMe to help out L.A. and his family. And he is a host here on KGRA and has his program. He's a member of this community and family for many years. And so anything that you can do to help L.A. and get through this very difficult time. And also, Chris has his GoFundMe too as well. And Chris, everybody, can they go to UFODAP.com, which we have the links up at Jimmy Church Radio, but can they help you out there?
No, you have to go to GoFundMe.com /UFODAP DAP, and then hyphen or dash.
Okay, so
LV.
Okay, we're going to get those links up on Twitter. So the links for the GoFundMe are not over at the UFODAP website?
No, that's it's a placeholder until next week when the site gets launched.
Oh, I got you. Okay. All right. So we'll get the links up for your GoFundMe here on Twitter right now. And, okay, so what happened when you were 7? This is what's really funny. I was just talking about our conversation that we had in the Sun that one day. And
Right.
You never know. I'm just going to tell the audience a little slice of this conversation. So Chris and I are sitting there talking, and we find out that we have a mutual friend, a close friend. I'm not going to say his name, but a close friend that I have known for 30, 35 years, and Chris. And you just never know when you sit down how small the world is, right? And
Yeah.
it's a small world. And I do owe you a photograph of our mutual friend, and I will. It cannot go public, though.
What about that?
He would kill me. He would kill you, too, as well. But nonetheless, it's a small world.
I can't wait to post it.
Yeah, right. That's my fear. Oh, that's my fear, because he's such a talented and very cool person. But anyway, what happened when you were 7?
It's bizarre. I woke up. I had a bedroom in the basement.
Where did this happen?
This happened in one of the. Let's put it this way: if I had my paper out today that I had back then, a couple years later, I'd be Bill Gates' paper boy. It happened in Medina, on the lake in Bellevue.
Okay,
Washington.
Got you. Okay.
And so anyway, I'm in. I wake up, and I see this glittering light that was going up and down like a 2-foot wand, and there were 3 of them. And I'm like, what is this? And they're like kind of at the side of my bed, and then curved around towards the foot of my bed. And then as my eyes start to adjust to the light, I realize that there's 3 hands holding the middle of these wands with this colored light going up and down, like glittering. And I could see from the glow of these wands, or spears as I called them later, I could see the outline of these extremely skinny, arms like my thumb, legs like 2 thumbs width. I called them stick men. They were incredibly skinny. There was 3 of them. There looked like there was a 4th one, maybe a taller one in the back that was hiding in the dark. I really couldn't see much detail. Of course, the first thing I did was cover myself up with my covers.
Of course, right.
Put them back up to look to see if I was dreaming or not. And when I realized that they were real, I just dashed out of my room. I wasn't frozen. I wasn't, immobilized. And I dashed out of my door. I went up the 10 steps to the landing out the way at the front door. I turned around to go up the last 4 steps to the part of the house where my parents' bedroom was. And they were at the top of the stairs. And I didn't know if it was the same group, whether it was a different group, but it was the same 3 little guys, the same height as I was, holding these glittering spears, I call them. So I ran to the kitchen, and I grabbed the door to go out, and I forgot my dad had just put the screen door on, and I ran into the screen door. This was in the early spring, just before my 7th birthday. I think it was 6 and like 52 weeks or something, or 51 weeks. So my birthday was right around the corner. So I got knocked down, and this is when I really knew I was awake. I had a little bump on my head, and I could see them all the way through the kitchen at the other end of the kitchen. And at this point, there was enough kind of residual light where I could really get a much better sense of them, and see how impossibly skinny they were. And they were a pasty kind of off-white, kind of a dirty white color. They had large heads. I don't remember their eyes. I've blanked that out for some reason. I don't remember the shape of their eyes, which is kind of strange. But anyway, I wanted to run around to my parents' room. For some reason, they either blocked me or something happened, and I ended up going down the driveway through the hedge to go to the Richards who lived next door, to bang on their door and see if I could use their phone to call back to the house. And nobody answered the door. And so I ran out to the next neighbor, and they had a big, huge lawn, and there was a street light. that was in between the lawn and my neighbor's driveway. And so I stood out in the middle of the lawn with plenty of elbow room, and I kind of waited to see if they would come through the light so I could get a really good look at them. And this is the weird part of this. This is, the trickster kind of, the part that, when you tell people this, they go, okay, well, it had to have been a dream. But they approached the light, and right when they got to where the light was splayed in the circle on the ground, they turned sideways and had no depth. They were like paper.
They were flat, 2D.
They were flat, 2D, exactly. And they turned sideways and they came through the light. I could see these thin lines coming through the light, and I became terrified. I ran around the Barker's house, banged on their door. The last thing I remember is their porch light coming on. And then my sister found me 4 or 5 houses away on a deck. She said she looked for me for about 20 minutes. I think it was longer. The Barkers had seen me outside. When they went to open the door, I wasn't there, so they called my house. My sister answered the phone. She started looking for me. She found me finally, across the street and down the other direction. So I don't know how much time that I'm missing, let's say, but it's between 40 minutes and 20 minutes and 40 minutes, something like that. My sister took me home. She said I was absolutely terrified. I wouldn't go down to my room. I said the stick man, and she thought I was having a nightmare. I'd never sleepwalked before or since. And she said I was so freaked out when I fell asleep in the bed with her, I tried to nurse her, she said. That's how terrified I was, which is really kind of strange for me because I was kind of I was a macho little kid, really into sports and everything, even at 6. It's the most incredible thing that's ever happened to me. I remember like as yesterday, it's seared into my brain. Years later, I found out John Keel investigated 3 other cases with the exact same description in the towns around my town, in I think around Lake Sammamish, Houghton, and Redmond. There were 3 other cases. In fact, in one of the cases, the kid called them stickmen. I think this was in Operation Trojan Horse, the Keel book. So I've always known that there's something here that's living here now, and it's probably as terrestrial as we are. I have a suspicion that we have yet to define, that's interacting with us on some level. And, whether they're crypto-terrestrials, ultra-terrestrials, if you will, or meta-terrestrials, dimensional, or there are other tenants on Earth, I really don't know. I didn't see any craft. I have no reason to think that they came from outer space, let's say. Right. I was not exposed to sci-fi at that age. I wasn't allowed to watch TV. I led a very, cloistered life when I was young. My parents are very protective of outside influences and stuff. And this, of course, they said, oh, you were just having a nightmare and sleepwalking. Well, I said, what about the bump on my head? I remember running into the screen door. So, I've always known, I've always had this total fascination with all these subjects. I've been a closet UFO buff for years. When I lived in New York City, of course, I could never, only a few really close friends I would talk to about this stuff. And when I finally moved out west and then landed in the paranormal Disneyland, that's when I really was able to really, exercise, my just fascination, to the extent of writing books and interviewing people and putting 300,000 miles on my truck in 6 years.
And see, this is the best part of your experience, though, when you're talking with somebody that has something that they want to share. You're going to listen. Where it goes from there, but you've had that experience right there, and especially at that age,
totally changed my life. I would not be the person, even close to the person I am now, if that hadn't happened. No way.
And somebody comes up to you and tells you, or better yet, right? Somebody is talking to somebody else. You're an observer. and you're listening to somebody tell a story that is similar to yours, right? And you're listening, and the person that they're telling it to is dismissing it, and you're like, no. And that's the thing. There are people out there that are going to listen to this broadcast, and listen to this, where there's going to be those out there that are going, you know what, man, Chris is I'm not buying into this. Then there are the others that are going to listen, Chris, and go, you know what, that same thing happened to me. Right. And I need to hear this from Chris, so I know that I'm not crazy. And I've never talked about it. I've kept it inside. But that's the importance of. Have you shared? I've never heard you speak about this before. I'm sure you have.
I didn't talk about this stuff for a long time with other than real close friends, girlfriends, and people I'd known for decades who knew me well enough. It wasn't until I really started getting publicly involved in this stuff, and I had 6 hours of missing time out in Utah just before I moved to Crestone. That kind of reminded me that there's, possibly I'm one of those people that attracts this type of stuff, because at that point I'd had a couple of real good sightings, one that was interactive. A group of us were able to interact with lights in the sky and trace out, lay on the field and trace out shapes, and they would mirror them in the sky. That was another really interesting, in New Paltz, right around the time that Whitley Strieber claims he started having his experiences in New Paltz. So, I have had some other experiences too with people that have always reminded me that I'm not crazy, that there is something to this stuff. But I was very reluctant. Just like being funded by Lawrence Rockefeller, I was very reluctant to tell people about that for a lot of years. There's just certain things that you don't want people to hear that and then call your credibility or your integrity or your truthfulness or your veracity into question. And it got to a point, in the late 90s, early 2000s, where I didn't really care anymore. I just felt so strongly that I had to really fess up, because I was getting so many questions about the abduction phenomenon. I was getting so many people talking about contactees and experiencers and strange experiences, and people constantly asking me, and I would say yes, and then I would say, well, I don't really want to talk about it. And I finally just, one day, it was at a conference too. Somebody asked me, and I said, well, this is the first time I've ever actually told this in public, but yes. And I told them this story. It's one, that and getting my two front teeth knocked out by a line drive in baseball the following year, crashing on my bike real bad, seeing a school of huge carp. I mean, there were certain things in my childhood that I remember really well, but nothing compares to the memory of that night. That was the most freaky thing that anyone could ever experience. I mean, like I said, it really changed my life.
I think also that we're starting to the way that we looked, going back to say 1947 and forward, the way that we looked at UFOs, we didn't understand the physics of everything, the size of the universe. We didn't have a real clue. In 1929, right, 17 years before Roswell and Kenneth Arnold, there was only a couple of galaxies out there, right? We didn't understand what was around us, or gravity, or we just didn't understand it. Today, we now, in less than a lifetime ago, now we understand that there is 400 billion galaxies, right? 400 billion. In 1929, there was one, the Milky Way, ours, right? And the way that we looked at UFOs was an innocent, we're trying to figure things out. Today, with quantum mechanics and string theory and the possibility of parallel worlds or interdimensionality.
Yeah, well, the many worlds.
Many worlds, right? All of we have a scientific foundation of looking at the possibility of things where the crypto world or Bigfoot or UFOs or your two-dimensional stick guys, right? That we have a whole
There's
nother
40 billion Earth-like planets in our galaxy alone.
And the majority of those are 1 billion years older than our sun. In the Milky Way, in our Milky Way, the age of the Milky Way is, it's a phenomenon. It's old. So yeah, we didn't understand these things just less than a lifetime ago. So yeah, I think we're starting to understand with science the possibility of what is actually going on. You're absolutely right. A two-dimensional flat stick figure guy waving a wand. Could that be E.T. or off-planet? Could be. Is it something that just came into our frequency and you were able to see it for a second? Right? They could be walking around us right now.
They follow me to two neighbors' houses. Well, at least one neighbor's house. When I went around the corner and pounded on the second neighbor's door, I don't recall ever seeing them again after I came around the corner. But then I disappeared. So. Was
that the only time? By the way, I meant to ask you that. Was that the only contact?
I had an experience just the night before the first time I visited Crestone in the San Luis Valley. I was out dinosaur fossil hunting in Utah. There was something running around. We heard these little pitter-patter steps outside our tent, and my girlfriend and my friend from back east, they were terrified, and they were like blubbering. So I took the Winchester, and I went outside and checked around, and I didn't really see anything. I looked for footprints. This is about, 1 o'clock at night, and they had never been in a place like South Central Utah. This is kind of like the Uinta Basin, but further south. And so I sat in the car, and I was going to wait and see if something showed up. And I was all of a sudden I started seeing something in the rearview mirrors, and it was like this. It was just playing with me. I'd look in the left mirror, and I'd see it in the right mirror, and then it would be in the center mirror. And there was something running around the back of the car, and I could just kind of barely check out movement, some light-colored movement. And so I rolled down the window. I had a big mag light, and I turned it on, and I shone it, to the back of the car to see if I could see anything, and I didn't see anything. So I turned and faced forward. I was in the driver's seat, and I blinked, and it was 7 o'clock in the morning. My light was still on in my hand, and I am a super restless sleeper. Even in my own bed, I wake up 3 or 4 times a night. I don't have any memory. I mean, and the light was still on. The battery should have wore out hours before. And that freaked me out. It was 6 hours, like 5.5, 6 hours of missing time, just in a blink of an eye. That was bizarre.
I don't have a missing time story yet. I will eventually have one. I don't have one. This is what I find so much fun. This is the truth. I never saw an orb in my life, right? I would see pictures and I would dismiss it, whatever, man, that's dust, that's this, that's that, you're imagining things. Then I see my first orb. That changes you, right? But Bigfoot.
Oh, yeah, I've seen some good ones.
Yeah, and Bigfoot, I just dismiss it.
On my website.
I see my first Bigfoot print, and then I don't see one, I see 4, right? Big, giant in the middle of this field. And that changes you, right? The whole meditation thing, I always dismiss. And then when you do, so I'm starting to accumulate. Now I've seen my triangle. I've photographed a triangle in the sky. I've seen my things, but I haven't had the missing time. I've seen a ghost. I don't have the missing time experience yet.
Yeah.
I can only imagine.
Careful what you wish for.
I know. I want that story. Chris, what's up next for you? I know you're Did you just finish your screenplay, or you're writing it now? What are you doing? You've got a TV show you're working on too, right?
Yeah, I'm going to be coming out with a podcast called Out There with Ed, featuring yours truly. We've been working on this for a while. We had Meg Griffin, the famous DJ who first brought the Ramones and Talking Heads and the Clash and everybody to America. She's been doing our voiceover stuff. So that's going to be debuting here in a week or so. I'm real excited about that. Get back on the air. And then, of course, the UFODAP program out in the San Luis Valley this spring. I'm going out. We're going to put up the other couple of cameras and get our scientific gear package calibrated out there and start really getting some good information. Everybody, if you want to help out, go to GoFundMe.com /UFODAP and then -SLV for San Luis Valley. So, and OurStrangePlanet.com is my website. There's a lot of good stuff on there, too, if you're interested in my work.
Thank you so much. Great conversation tonight from start to finish. Absolutely amazing. And thank you for all that you do.
Licking the tip of the iceberg, as you know.
I know. I can't wait to get you back on the show. And we'll get the links up for the GoFundMe. Let's do another round.
Cool.
And
thank you.
And
thanks to your listeners who chipped in last month. I mean, 2 months ago, it was really great, you guys. You really helped get that trip paid for and get those 2 cameras up. And real soon we're going to have both triangulated, and we're going to be posting some pretty cool stuff.
And get us the links up, or let us know when the site goes active next week, and we'll get that up there for you too.
Will do.
Thank you so much, Chris.
Dave, thanks for having me on, Jimmy.
Have a great night. Chris O'Brien, and what a fantastic conversation. But I got to tell you, I want to go back there. I have a friend that told me about his experience, and him and the people that he was with thought that it was an ET contact experience with these creatures on the ground. But this is what he described was very similar to what Chris just said, in that they were flat and they walked sideways, and then went in that they had shape from the front. But then when they looked around to the side, they saw that they were actually flat and they were walking sideways, and they shimmered. And I was told about that in probably 1985. And the story was then repeated to me many, many years later, a few years ago, and I had my memory refreshed on it. But that was that contact, that was that experience, and that they were 2D and they were walking sideways, and then when they got around and saw them turn, that they were actually flat. And hearing Chris describe it that way, very, very, very interesting. 2D. Remember the other? I meant to bring this up. The orb. The orb that I saw up at ECETI, it was flat. That orb was not spherical. It was flat. It was 2D. It was like a coin, and it was flat. It wasn't 3D. There's something going on. There's a 2D parallel world out there that is a side-scrolling Mario Brothers game, where everything is 2D and doesn't have that third dimension to it. Think about that. Very interesting. Chris O'Brien, the website is ufodap.com. It's going to go live next week. They've got one camera that is out there now. That is online. They're going to add the second camera. That is ready. We will get the GoFundMe up on Twitter and go and help out. All of us Fadernauts get together and get that done. With that, I'm going to get out of here. This is Fade to Black, and tomorrow night, right here on Fade to Black, Johnny Enoch. That's right. The new Area 51, that's going to be revealed tomorrow night. We're going to talk about some ancient history, too, as well. A little Egypt, a little South America, a little Central America. We're going to do all of that tomorrow night. Johnny Enoch. Wednesday night, Patrick Wood, Technocracy 2.0. Thursday night's another Fader Night with Teresa Yanaris. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Fade to Black's executive producer is Rita Camurian. Show's produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee, Dennis, and Bob. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vito, Mark D. Kovar. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network, and syndication is KGRA, The Planet. It's broadcast owned and copyrighted 2018 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Till tomorrow night, I want everybody to be safe. Go Beckley Tappy.